Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and you're watching Glenda's Dragon's Den. LD, I sent him on another mission. I know. One of these days I'll have him back. I'm sure you all miss him, but I'll send him on a mission, and he will be back soon enough when the time is right. And for those rumor people, there's nothing wrong with us. We're perfectly fine. He's just doing me a favor. Thank you. Anyway, let's cut that out. Today we have a phenomenal guest. This is her second time here with me, and it she what can I say? She's a writer, and there's so many other things that she is about that I'm just going to basically introduce her and let her tell you her own story. Hi, Constance. How are you?
Good, thank you, Glenda. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, of course. It was a pleasure and always pleasure to talk to you. So, for those people that didn't get to see you the first time, tell us a little bit about yourself. And even those that did get to see you, just to remind them who you are.
So I am a author, researcher on a number of topics. I started out writing about angels and metaphysical topics. And then I eventually branched into what I'm working on now, which is working on galactic and cosmic mysteries and what's going on out there in space and on Earth involving um, extraterrestrials and galactic history.
Hmm. Very good, very good. So, I know you just published a book, one of many, but this one in particular.
Yeah.
You Let's hear the name and tell us a little bit about it. And
Yeah. So my new book is Earth's Galactic History and its Extraterrestrial Connection. I don't know if you have a picture of it, but I will hold it up for you.
there you go.
There it
Perfect.
is. And I tell you, this book really was such a labor of love for me. I came on the show the last time talking about the moon and its galactic history, and that was a labor of love. But once I told the Earth story, it was just so it was just so exciting. Some of the information that I put in this book for people to I wanted people to get an understanding because they were asking me questions about what's being seen in the skies today by way of UFOs. We're
Hmm.
seeing so much activity around the world with all the cameras everywhere. People are filming UFOs
Right.
all the time, and some of them are seeing what appears to be extraterrestrials as strange creatures
Hmm.
too. And so there were a lot of questions about this, and so I decided to tell the story in this book, going from the beginning of our human history to today, of
Hmm.
how we've been affected by extraterrestrials. I talk about their presence throughout the years, and I talk about the fact that they really have touched every aspect of Earth.
Hmm. Hmm. Their influence is everywhere. It's just people have to realize um, when and where. That's all. But that's great. I can't honestly, like I said to you before, I haven't had a chance to pick it up yet, but I will, and I will read it from the first page to the last, like I always do. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did you get into all this?
Well, um, I had been on, excuse me, a search for something my whole life. Since childhood, I felt some sort of strange pull, spiritual pull.
Hmm.
And so throughout my life, I had been searching for answers as to, questions like, so many people like, where are we from? Who are we? Who is God? Why
Hmm.
are we here? All of the basic stuff that has been asked since the beginning of time, except I felt a yearning for it. So I started out trying to get questions answered. And in the process, I was also having some very interesting paranormal experiences that I couldn't explain.
Mhm.
I wanted answers to those questions as well. I don't like being in the dark. I want to know what's going on.
Right.
So, I started that whole chapter in my life with the angels because I was having, a difficult time with an entity that was visiting my apartment in my 20s when I was single.
Mhm.
And so that took me down a whole journey of learning about the spiritual realm and what may be out there, and calling on angels to help, which I did. And once I started doing that, it went away.
Mhm.
Um, Also, before that, I was very heavily involved in religious studies, trying to find answers through Christianity, which I didn't, which is a whole other book. And that just raised more questions for me.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's pretty much my background. So since my 20s, I have been on a whirlwind of learning. Okay, so I had the paranormal experiences. I started having out of body experiences, which is a whole other, conversation, but it opened me up so much
Mhm.
to understand that we're not exactly who we think we are. There's more to us than we ever imagined,
Right.
and we have the capacity and ability to experience things we never dreamed we could, being out of the
Mhm.
body. As you've probably covered on your show, Glenda, you can
Mhm.
travel, to other uh, places and
Right.
see people and see other dimensions. You can travel out into the stars. So
Mhm.
that was amazing, and people should know that a lot of times when they think they're dreaming, they're not, they're traveling.
Mhm.
And I would become conscious in my out of body when I was out of the body, and know where I that I was out of the body,
Mhm.
what I was experiencing, and that's a lot of fun, actually. Then I would go to bed and I would think, okay, I want to go here, I want to go there, I want to go visit mom.
Mhm.
East Coast when I was on the West Coast, that kind of thing. So yeah, I've been down this whole. I've been having all these experiences, and I will just say very quickly, also. I wrote a book titled The Encyclopedia of the Unseen World. And
Mhm.
that book came about because my father, who had transitioned to the other side, came back and let me know that basically he was around, he was there, he was fine. And I dedicated that book to him, and I wrote it in a way. It's the encyclopedia, so you can go to different articles on different topics about the unseen world. You can look up angels. You can
Mhm.
look up going into the light. You can look up communications from the other side. Because I experienced that with my father, I
Right.
wanted people to understand what was happening when their
Mhm.
loved ones crossed over. So yeah, my mother crossed over and she came back, and let me know she was all right. And so yeah, that's been my life. But the galactic part was something that was a huge passion for me, because I always believed that there were other beings in the universe. I never
Mhm.
believed that we were alone.
Mhm.
I wanted to learn more, so I went down that journey, and I've just learned a great deal. I'm a Trekkie, as they say, by the way. I always followed those shows because I just felt so connected to them, and I believe that there are people here that are not only coming from the other side, but that may be even coming here for other worlds for special missions
Mhm.
on Earth to enlighten, to teach, to educate, and also to experience. And when they transition, perhaps they go back to their home world. So it's
Mhm.
all been very interesting, learning all of this. So
So, as you said, you have paranormal experiences
yeah,
and galactic experiences.
yeah.
Um, Tell us a little more about the galactic experiences.
So It was very, very funny. When I was a little girl, I was outside playing with some friends and in the
Mhm.
dark at night, and we had a flashlight. We were running around, and one of my friends showed a light in the sky, the flashlight in the no, I was showing the flashlight in the sky. And I remember my little friend saying, "Don't do that." And I'm like, "Why not?" He says, "Because they might not like it up there." And I remember thinking, "They who? Who is they?" And to this day, as old as I am, I remember that conversation. Who is they? And that was something that was something I asked, my whole life. Who is they? Well, when I was about 9 years old, I was traveling in the car with my mother. And my mother was, I tell this story on a lot of shows. My mother was a very nervous driver. I was in the back seat. She was driving. It was dark. We were going to the drugstore. We called them the drugstores back then. And I was quiet as a mouse because I didn't want to get in trouble. Off to my right side, we were crossing a small bridge, and off to my right, there was a little valley, and I could see the lights. But in the sky, there was something strange. All right, and this thing had lights that were revolving in different colors.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, I wonder if that's one of those things. That's what I thought. And, my parents, as far as I knew, didn't follow ufology.
Right.
But must have heard something somewhere for me to question it. And it was hovering. Okay. So I've thought about it throughout the years, and I had forgotten for a while, and it really came back when I was writing the Moon book. Because I was reading about a lady who saw a UFO, and the thing was hovering. And I thought to myself, well, an airplane can't hover. It had to be a UFO. And then I thought, oh,
Mm.
because mine was, what I saw was hovering. So
Mhm.
today I believe, of course, it was a UFO. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a helicopter, and it wasn't a blimp.
Right.
And it was very, very close. And I lived in the Washington metropolitan area, and there's military there. And I just wonder, was it a UFO that was around because of that, or what was going on? But it was very, very strange. And I still can't believe to this day that I saw that thing.
Mm.
So that was one of my experiences. And then, I've had my out of body experiences and dreams where I have traveled and seen beings. And lately, I've been, I visited this place a few times. It could be some kind of craft because from what I'm learning about spacecraft, there are things called that we refer to as motherships, all right,
Mhm.
that are designed in a way that, there are beings living there. And so although I didn't see any kind of operational controls, I was in a setting where I was in a room,
Mhm.
and there were three lady beings there that I have been searching for in pictures. I have a lot of books here of people's drawings and interpretations of beings they've seen,
Mhm.
extraterrestrials, but I haven't found them. But anyway, something was wrong. Something
Mm.
was wrong with me. And they seemed almost panicked. So I don't know what was going on. And I can see one of their faces very close, like, looking at me, and the other two were moving very quickly, going to get something. It was very interesting. I came back and I thought, what in the heck was going on? What was wrong?
Mm.
But this was all positive, good, and I don't know who they were, but I'd like to know. And I feel always that I have guides around me, and I believe that our guides in life can be extraterrestrial, or they can be even angelic. But
Mhm.
there's someone with me all the time, and I don't know if it's these ladies that I saw or not. So they were humanoid, and they all had on the same type of outfit. They were, the shirts were striped in green and yellow and red, and they were kind of glittery. And the bottoms were black pants, and their hair they all had dark hair up in a bun, but it was their eyes that were so different. And I remember thinking, wow, how do they do that with their eyes? Their eyes were like, oh, very, very large, like saucers, and they were
Mm.
green. They were green and huge. They weren't when you see the pictures of the gray aliens, they're like they weren't like that at all. They were totally different, and they were beautiful. But I can't find any pictures of them. I'm going to have to draw them. And they weren't the only ones I've seen. I traveled once to a dimension, and I was with someone. I was
Mhm.
with a guide, and I saw a girl. And I was wondering, what does she see when she looks at me? She was a humanoid extraterrestrial,
Mhm.
and she seemed to acknowledge my presence, but I don't know what she was seeing. I don't know what I look like
Mhm.
on the other side when I'm traveling. So that was interesting. And then there was a time when I first left my body, the very first time. If you live in the Washington metropolitan area, then you're familiar with the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. And I used to live in those apartment buildings. They were called Huntington Towers. And I don't know if they're still there or not, it's been many years, but they towered over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. And I came out of my body and I was in the sky at night. And I went to move and I could move forward. I thought, I know what this is. And I went to move forward, and it was like I was bobbing because I was in that, what we call spiritual form. That spiritual
Mhm.
form I really relate to as our true selves. Okay. But so I was bobbing up and down just like you see a ball in the ocean or something.
Mhm.
But that night, not only did I see the cars going by on the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, I began to travel. And I traveled to this place where I came through a wall,
Mhm.
and it looked kind of, I don't know, I want to describe it as like bricks, this building. And then I was going and I could look in the rooms, and there was this, what looked like was a kind of animal. Resembled kind of a cat, but he was floating, not crawling, not, and he saw me, and he looked, and I don't know what he saw when when they look at you,
Mhm.
looks at you out of the body. There have been different explanations for this. So some say you look like a silk scarf, some say a shadow, but it saw me and it started chasing, and I went flying down the hall and out. And
Mhm.
so that wasn't here. That was a different world or a different dimension.
Mhm.
So those are some of my experiences. And my main experience, I can't believe I almost forgot this. So I was a bullied child, and I was one of those kids that tried to commit suicide. I took a lot of pills.
Mhm.
It was before I learned about angels being out there. And although I believe this was a benevolent being, I don't believe it was quote unquote an angel.
Mhm.
So I saw what looked like a swirling cloud appear before me. I was on the floor, almost passed out, and I saw this thing, and it opened, and there stood a man with a long, what looked like a long robe with a high collar like my turtleneck, and
Mhm.
it was white, and he was very concerned. He seemed very upset. And he was holding out his hand, beckoning me to come.
Mhm.
I just looked at him, and I didn't move. But I believe today, had I reached out for him, I probably would have lifted up and out of my body and gone with.
Mhm.
But I have read a book called From Elsewhere by Scott Mandelaker many years ago, when my guide started educating me to the fact that there was more going on than life after death. There was more going on to angels, that there were extraterrestrials. And I'm going, you're kidding me? You're kidding me.
Mhm.
Remember the light, but I knew I wasn't an angel, and I was trying to figure out what the heck I am. Who am I? Why am I remembering a light from another time? This memory wasn't from here. So I started getting this information, and this book had it was his thesis, this author's thesis,
Mhm.
where he wrote about people who believed that they were from other worlds, that they're
Mhm.
extraterrestrials here on Earth. This woman talked about seeing a swirling cloud
Right.
opening, and this being appearing to her. And I identified with that. It looked very, very much like the experience that I had had. So I went down that hole, what they're calling a rabbit hole, into
Mm-hmm.
terrestrials, who they are, why they're here. And I just opened up a whole new world in the last 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
learning more than 20, actually, learning about extraterrestrials and the many aspects of them and the many species of them, and the fact that they are interacting with us, and the fact that we can come across them in near-death experiences, um, or regular life experiences, which I can get into or to get into.
Go for it. No, but it is true. Um, I have experienced galactic and I have experienced angelic.
Yeah,
And that swirly thing, that is the portal to the so called other side. And that being is Archangel Azrael. He's the one that was like saying to himself, this was not your time. You still have things to do. Why are you there? And his job is to hold your hand and take you in transition. But he was hoping you wouldn't, which you didn't. So I'm glad that you decided to stay around because you do have a lot more to do. So
mm,
even back then you had a lot. You still have a lot to do. So um but there are a lot of accounts of those swirly things because when somebody is doing a near death experience, or whether by their hands or just happens, they see the light and it's like a pull. And if you decide to go, you may or may not come back.
yeah,
I have been very fortunate that I have been tossed back. It depends on the day. But anyway, I have been fortunate that I've been tossed back because then I wouldn't have experienced everything that I have experienced so far. Now daytime, the daytime experiences. Let's just say that. Um, how's that been for you with the Galactics? Like seeing them or experiencing them?
I haven't seen them in the did you say daytime,
Yeah,
Glenda?
right.
I can't say that I experienced them in the daytime. And I don't see them.
Okay.
I feel like I have guides around me, and I believe they are ET guides because I get shown information, I get downloads, I get prompted to
Mm-hmm.
information. I was looking, for example, to see perhaps maybe where I might be from galactically. Am I from, did I come from the other side straight here? Did I come from a different world here? Am I living in stasis somewhere and I left there and came here? You know, I got once a prompting to go to the bookstore, and I followed the prompting, and they kept saying Sirius, and this was many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Sirius, Sirius, Sirius. And so I did. I came across a book on the planet Sirius, and then I did a reading with a woman
Mm-hmm.
who was walking
Mm-hmm.
who had walked in, and she was a galactic being
Mm-hmm.
from a different world. And in her reading, she told me I was from Sirius.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was very interesting for me.
I
And
concur with that.
sorry,
I concur with that.
yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. It's
So,
actually a Series B.
yeah, Sirius B,
Yeah.
Sirius B.
Yeah.
So, I've had those kinds. I get help in my work, in my writing. I get visuals, and I get what I don't really hear them, but I have that inner ear where I get
Mhm.
messages. So I get those kinds of experiences from them, and I get encouragement on what I should be writing about too. There's a book right now they want me to work on, and it is, if I work on that thing, it's going to be massive. And so,
Oh, that's the one on the councils.
My
Council
God.
is right.
They're
Yes.
saying, "Oh, it needs to be done. No one's done it. It needs to be done." And I'm like, "It's going to be huge. Who's going to buy it? Who's going to publish it?" Well, I guess
That
they know, right?
that's the reason I just channel it weekly. I don't even write it because I will be there like you going, it's 3,000 pages. Nobody's gonna buy this now. Like, but yes, I heard that when you were saying that they're trying, and then all I right away I saw one of the councils, I believe is one of the councils of 8 or 9, Ra, and I saw him right here appear, and I'm like, oh, okay, council, all right, got it. Um,
Good to know.
yes, yes, yes. It's always it's very interesting what we do. It's very hard to explain to people sometimes that you just get confirmation like this sometimes.
Oh my God. I have a story for you. I have a story. So I mentioned my book, The Encyclopedia of the Unseen World,
Hmm.
right? I
Hmm.
don't remember originally what the working title was, but I tried to send it to publishers and nobody was responding. And so I'm getting this my guides are saying change it to unseen all things spiritual, all things spiritual. And I'm like, but it's not all things spiritual. Change it to all things spiritual. So I went next door. My husband and I had offices in the house side by side.
Hmm.
Well, my guys want me to change the book, the name of the book to All Things Spiritual, but I don't really like the name All Things Spiritual. He says you better change it to All Things Spiritual. So I did. I went and changed it, sent out the book proposals. The next day, I got 5 hits on the book, and it did end up selling. Although the publisher changed the name, but they were right.
Mm.
Immediately, people, started.
At least you got people to see it.
Yeah, so I'm saying they know what they're doing. They know what they're
Yeah,
talking about. Whew.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
um,
That's wonderful. That's a great experience. A good um, story to talk about because you got the confirmation immediately.
right.
It wasn't, like you had to wait weeks or anything. You send it out, boom, right away. Um, what other kinds of experiences have you had like that? If you want to talk about that.
With the guides or
Mhm.
with anybody or any
Anyway,
paranormal
anyway.
experience, I would like to tell you about my mother.
Sure.
So my mother passed away in 20, and I'll go back to my dad too, because this just is really interesting stuff. My dad passed away in 2019. I mean, my mom passed away in 2019, and I live in Southern California. I was flying to Virginia
Hmm.
to help take care of her. When she passed, my brother and I were, over there, and we were down and everything. And we would go to restaurants at night to eat because we were cleaning up her estate, right? So we would go eat. We
Hmm.
were sorting her stuff in the day, and I went into the ladies' room. And then I went into the, sorry for saying, but I went to the stall. And, I walked in, turned, locked the door, and I turned around, and on the back of the, I'm sorry to say this, but on the back of the toilet, there was
Hmm.
there was a little note,
Hmm.
and the note was about the size of an index card, and it said, "The soul is eternal. Soul is
Mm.
forever and eternal." And it
Oof,
had a
getting
smiley
goosebumps.
face. It had a smiley face, and the smiley face was drawn exactly how my mother used to draw it.
Wow.
And I was in shock, and it was just amazing. I was kept been really depressed, and I picked this thing up, and I'm like, who leaves a note on the back of a toilet,
Yeah.
like that says that? And I believe that they can give us messages and gifts. That's why I wrote the book. Talks
Hmm.
about that kind of stuff. And yeah, and she has been back not too long ago. She we were here, and it was the anniversary of her passing, and the light in my bedroom had been flickering and it was doing weird stuff. And then my husband and I are sitting there looking at it like, what the heck's wrong with this light? And, I knew it was mom. And so finally I got up and said, I had to go to another room really quickly. I said, if the light goes off, let me know. And it went boom. It just went off. So they're around.
Hmm.
And if you find yourself in a position where things are going wacko, it's not scary. So it's not scary. It's because maybe someone's trying to reach you.
Right.
We haven't found a way in the physical to be able to connect with the other side and have conversation. Now,
Mhm,
there have been scientists who have worked on it. Thomas Edison
mhm,
is said to have had a draft of some kind of what you could call telephone or something that he was creating. They found this draft of something he was inventing to be able to
mhm.
talk to the other side. And I think Nikola Tesla had mentioned something too.
Right.
There may be a day, a time when we will be able to do that. And I have to tell you that I think that all of this is extraterrestrial related. It's not just us going from this life to heaven.
Mhm.
The worlds, realms, dimensions, the unseen world is vast. So
Right.
there may be someone that is working on that. I mean, we have things that now like EVP, you can
Mhm.
sometimes get recordings, you can sometimes even get writings, or what we call apports, where you can get a gift or a note by
Right.
something that they leave. But there may be a time where we have even more access to connecting to the other side, as strange as that sounds. I wouldn't be surprised.
I actually won't be surprised if it's already here, but it's still too advanced for humanity brain. Because there would be a lot of people getting too scared
Mm.
that they can just pick up basically a phone, dial a number, and hey, can I talk to my mom? Or can I talk to my dad? I, I think that would shatter all their beliefs.
We're not you're right, we're not taught, we're not trained to think in those terms, but we should be. Because if we were, people would not be so afraid
Right.
when something like that happens, when a picture falls off the shelf of your mom and she's passed,
Hmm.
and it just kind of jumps off. It
Hmm.
just may be her trying to connect with you because they're looking for ways to get through and to communicate that they're alive and well.
Hmm.
Sometimes they can appear. I had one friend whose dad materialized.
Hmm.
Okay, and she was a teacher at a Montessori school,
Hmm.
and she was working late one day, and this Montessori school was inside of a house. They had turned into a school, and she was walking, and she had been so upset and depressed because of her father passing, and she said he just appeared in front of her,
Hmm.
and after she recovered from seeing him, you know,
Yes.
he said, "Vicky, stop, being so upset. I'm fine. I'm happy where I am." How he appeared or how they materialize and can do that is beyond us, right? We have
Hmm.
no idea of the science behind this, but he
Hmm.
was able to do it. And he did it two more times after that. And she told me, she said, "Constance, before that happened, if anyone had asked if I believe in this stuff, I would have said no."
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
if we were taught from early on that this is a thing, that this is real, that when we leave these bodies, we exist, that the
Hmm.
bodies really are a suit,
Hmm.
all right, just like you put on a coat and take
Right.
off, and we're
Exactly.
still there. We just don't know how to reach our loved ones to let them know.
Hmm.
If we're taught that early on, maybe so many people wouldn't be taken so aback and scared.
Yep. Very true. Very true. I agree 100%. I think that unfortunately right now we're still taught to be scared of anything that is unknown, anything that we don't understand, anything that we don't know about. And it's a shame because there's so much to learn if we should stop for a minute and allow it to come. And I'm glad that you're getting these books out and doing this to make people aware that there's more than just what the naked eye sees, and there's more than we have been taught.
We can't see everything that's going on around us.
Mm.
We don't have that kind of a sight. in our
Right.
physical bodies. And I have to tell you, it's not just people on Earth that have crossed over that are invisible to us.
Mhm.
Okay, it's other beings. I mean, when it comes to my book and the extraterrestrials, I've learned that there are physical beings that come here. People have talked about seeing extraterrestrials
Mhm.
physically, but I also believe that there are ethereal ones, that come here that we can't see. And they're benevolent and they're trying to get information out to us and they're trying to teach us and they're trying to uplift humankind. I believe
Mhm.
there are beings like that that we can't see. And I'm not talking about the angelic realm, although you can call angels extraterrestrials because they're not from here, right?
Right.
Anything from Earth. But I'm talking about ETs that may be in, ethereal ships. So one time I left my body.
Mhm.
And this was another time that I had seen a ship. So I had these out of body experiences, as I mentioned, and I had a toddler at that time. And he was taking a nap, and I decided to lay down and take a nap. All right. And by this time, I was in the habit of doing this, and I left, and I found myself in the sky, and there was a spaceship. It was a disc, but different than anything I've ever seen in pictures, and just glorious. It was a sort of a bronze copper color. It was beautiful, and I was nearing it, and I probably, would have gone through the wall of that ship, and maybe it's somewhere I go, that I don't remember from my dream state, right?
Mhm.
And I was thinking, I hope the phone doesn't ring, because what happens when you're asleep and you're out of your body can be awakened, and then you're going to be pulled back, right? So guess what happened? The phone rang and I snapped back into my body, and it was my husband. And I tell you, I never saw that ship again, but it taught me something. And I've since read this too in my research that there are ships out there that we cannot see. And I don't mean cloaked. There are ships that can cloak, but
Mhm.
there are ethereal type ships that
Mhm.
are there that we cannot see while we're in this body.
Right.
It's very interesting stuff.
Mhm. Well, we need to be at their level of frequency.
Yeah,
And in this body, no way. They're there's just way too um, advanced for that.
right. We need the body to have this experience on Earth.
Mhm.
They're trying to get us into space. It's not an easy thing because a human body doesn't do well out there. They've got a lot to fix before we'll be able to actually travel and live comfortably on a planet. I mean, I'm sure they'll do it eventually, but
Mhm.
they've got to work it out because a human body is not meant to be there. It's meant to be here, unless, of course, they can find some habitable planet that is similar to Earth. If not, they're going to have to create a colony, that we can exist in without our bones dissolving or something, you know. So, yeah, no, but they're working on it. I think it will happen. I think it's something that's not around the corner. Or there are tales of secret space agencies, of course, that where humans are traveling into space with extraterrestrials that have already created that kind of technology for them to be able to do so. So,
Right. I've heard that also.
yeah.
Yeah, word travels. So, um, and like yourself, I am sure the angels, archangels, the angelic realm, it's they don't really necessarily appear, or their appearance is not exactly as the drawings that have been shown. And that is why when you said, oh well, they're not really from this world, so they can be considered ETs. They really don't look like very pretty people with long hair. That's just so we're not afraid of them when we see them. but their true appearance, for lack of wording, is very different. And they when they show themselves completely to me, the first time I was taken back, and I was like, "Ooh, okay." Remember, this is the same person, this is the same entity that was just talking to you and looked very nice and human like, and you know, um, and you have to wonder how many of the angelics are not from other planets, just like Airy, Pluto, or even any other place in general. And we're just setting them apart because it's easier to believe that we're seeing angels than it is easier to say an ET or a galactic family or anything like that. And I think you're touching on that. You're about to really go into deep detail on that in your next book. I have it.
Yeah, I have actually been told to work on a new angel book too, interestingly enough. But I do want to say
Mhm,
that when the angels appear,
mhm.
and we use the term angels for lack of a better word,
Right,
right? We don't have another word that people understand. And I don't really always like using that word because it has a very religious
right.
aspect to it. But you're, of course, you're right. They don't look like that, but they do. When I was working on the Encyclopedia Angels,
Mhm.
it was interesting because I learned how many different forms they had taken on. They will appear according to your belief system.
Mhm,
So, if you're Wiccan,
mhm.
they appear as a cat,
Right.
right? And so there were different words throughout. There are different words throughout the planet and culturally for the same beings, but they will come to you in ways that you're going to recognize or not be frightened by.
Exactly. Exactly. And you're going to be able to be open to listen and take their guidance. So, um, so the new book that you have been invited to work on, let's just say that way, um, that's going to be on angels, and that's going to be a very different perspective,
It
or
would be a different perspective, and I really don't know what they want or where it's going to go. And that's not the book that I was talking about earlier. That's
right.
not the one that I said would be huge. They've
Mhm,
also mentioned this one, and I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, I haven't actually started writing that one,
mhm.
so to be honest, but it is there. It is there in waiting for me to work on it. Yeah,
next next in queue.
yeah. Next in queue.
um, Now, have you found yourself opening up to even more, to seeing more? I'm not talking about your physical eyes, but acknowledging their existence more now that you're writing more about the beings.
Oh, you mean the extraterrestrials?
Right.
Oh, I absolutely 100% believe that we are living in a galaxy that is full of life, a universe that is full of life. There's life in every corner.
Mhm,
I was going to say earlier when we were talking about the unseen, um, that I believe that there are unseen beings here, even that we are not fully aware of.
mhm,
I had a friend once who saw a brownie. Someone on a show asked me about this story once. They said, "What's a brownie?" Do you remember the stories from our childhood in a fairy tale? There were little brownies. They were little people.
mhm,
Okay, and a friend of mine saw one of those. He appeared and he ran out of, went through her screen, and she was as sane as anybody. I've had stories of people who described things that kind of sounded like trolls, all right,
mhm,
who can manifest and not. I think there are beings in every corner of the galaxy, including Earth, not just with the animals and the insect world, and humanity, but there are others here, and then there's others out there. There might even be sky beings. That's something that I'm going to look into because
Mhm,
there are beings everywhere and we just don't always see them unless sometimes they can show themselves and sometimes they can't. But out in the galaxy,
mhm,
it looks like, um, it looks like really what we might consider to be a Star Wars like atmosphere and with people coming and going. Why can't we see that? Because the universe is vast. We haven't
mhm,
got to that point yet. And there's another thing too. We do see things in our sky all the time, and we are seeing strange creatures, as I mentioned, and beings here. But some of it, I believe, may be kept from us until we're ready for that understanding. I believe that, and I talked about this in my book, that extraterrestrials may be behind what people are calling first contact. All
mhm,
right. They may be deciding when we're ready to have contact with the rest of the galactic community out there. Right now, we are still a primitive warring species. I mean,
mhm,
we're living on a planet where people, I listen to the news and they think it's okay to kill
mhm,
thousands of people. And I'm not talking about just one war. I'm
mm-mm,
talking about all the wars. When I hear soldiers saying, yep, well, there's always casualties of war. Well, don't have casualties of war. They're saying it's okay. And it's a worldwide thought. For most people, they still think killing is okay. So when it comes to benevolent beings in the universe,
mhm,
they still may feel that humanity has a way to go in their maturity and in growth. They're
mhm,
waiting for us to grow up. And there is a gentleman by the name of Alex Collier who says that he is an ambassador for the Andromedans. And
mhm,
he's been talking for many years and giving about them and giving their messages to humanity and their hope for peace for humans and how they're trying to help us. But they basically have said that, we need to grow up. And if we don't, then there may be some consequence. What will
mhm,
the consequences be? Because they said that what we're doing with the atomic weapons and the way we're treating Earth is having an effect out into the galaxy. Well, who's it affecting if there's no one out there, right?
mhm,
What they said. And so they may be just holding back a lot of what's out there from us until we grow up. They don't
mhm.
want us out there messing things up. So they're
Right,
not showing us everything.
right, right. And they also hope that we can grow up, as you say, to save the actual Earth. Because at some point, if we don't, all this atomic bombing and all this stuff, somebody presses the wrong button, we're all gone. And the Earth is going to get rid of the pesticide. Mother Gaia is going to say, you guys are pests. Get
Yeah.
out of here. I don't want you anymore.
Yeah, we're like fleas.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get out. That's it. And we're not going to have the beautiful earth that we have right now. It's going to take a long time to recover for her to recover from something like that. And imagine not having earth to be able to come to and have all these experiences and evolve. A soul needs a place to evolve, whether it's a galactic soul originally or a human soul originally, or even a angelic soul, because there are angelics that have decided to come to this world now to try to save humanity, but who have never incarnated. And I really feel really strongly bad about for them because not only they got to get used to the limitations of a body, but they got to get used to the craziness out here right now.
Yeah.
So they, for example, when Mohammed or Buddha, the ascended masters were sent, that was to teach us something, to try to redirect humanity.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we haven't learned.
No, it never worked.
We don't learn.
So many have come through and tried, and they're gone.
Yeah,
They were scoffed at.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So, and this is like one of those years that is very important. This is like we're at a fork in the road here.
Yeah.
We gotta get our act together, so to speak.
Well, the extraterrestrials have left messages. I mean, we get messages from them through channeling. We get messages through them from books that they've channeled.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Boy, we've even had messages in crop circles and
Mm-hmm.
other ways. And there is even a rumor that extraterrestrials met with one of our presidents and tried to talk them out of using, the atomic weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically said, we're not going to let you destroy all life on Earth. They will intervene, they will step in.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean for humans? You know, is it going to turn into another worldwide catastrophe because, we didn't listen? Although there are some rumor, no, there have been not rumor, but channelings
Right,
that said that there are ships. If there's ever a huge disaster for Earth, there are benevolent beings with ships out there waiting to take us off.
right. To take those that have evolved, who have listened, who are not involved in the chaos.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
interesting stuff. People don't listen; they think it's all just fake and a joke.
or like they don't understand the seriousness of all this
Mm-mm.
because they have not been taught to be open enough to take all this serious, and it's really a shame, really a shame. So I'm very happy to know someone that also has decided to put themselves out there and get all this out because I don't know about you, but I do get every once in a while an email. What the heck are you talking about? You're crazy. And I'm like, don't listen then. If you're not going to listen, don't listen.
I don't have a show, so I don't get those.
Uh,
And then I
yeah.
try not to read comments from the show. I don't even watch the shows I'm on. Just not looking at number one, I'm a little shy about that. So I don't know if
Yeah.
they're complaining or what they're
Yeah.
saying.
In my channels, they didn't complain about you.
Good. That crazy lady who believes in ETs.
Oh, please, I think anybody who does not understand right now that we're not the only ones in this whole vast place has to really sit down and think about all the evidence that it's in front of them.
There's a lot of evidence,
Yeah,
and Glenda, there's people who have never heard any of it. If
right.
I if I walked right next door right now, I would bet my neighbors would say, "What are you talking about? What?" I shocked someone over thanks excuse me. I shocked a friend over Thanksgiving, you know, and I didn't mean to. I don't know what I said, but the conversation got going, and you should have seen her eyes. Uh, it just big eyes from shock, you know. So that's why I wrote this last book. Now I'll just tell you what the chapters cover.
Mhm,
I talk about extraterrestrials in our history, um,
mhm,
the stories about star people coming to Earth. Almost every culture around the world have
mhm,
a history with star people coming to Earth that helped them to grow and to learn about agriculture and how to live on Earth comfortably. Um, I talk about extraterrestrials being in our ocean and the fact that people are seeing USOs, underwater submerged objects in the waters. I
mhm,
give Christopher Columbus as an example of someone who saw them.
mhm,
So, because when you hear about Christopher Columbus or anybody that is in history who talks about it, Andrew Hamilton saw UFOs, by the way, not in the oceans, but yeah,
mhm, mhm,
a UFO. He talked about it, but yeah, I talk about them in our oceans. I talk about intraterrestrials or extraterrestrials being inside of our Earth.
Mhm.
There are tales of cities being inside the Earth and people that have visited them. One of them was named Admiral, I can't talk all of a sudden, sorry. Admiral Richard Byrd, who was a decorated officer in the U.S. Navy
Mhm.
or Air Force, no, Air Force,
Mm.
who traveled there to an underground city, and he was told not to talk about it. So that information didn't come out for many, many, many years.
What a surprise.
Yeah. I talk about signs, signals, messages, and clues
Mhm.
given to us from extraterrestrials out there who have been trying to communicate. Some of them apparently communicate very well and easily via telepathy.
Mhm.
And then some of them can't come this far because they're not able to, because they're not, of their makeup. So they've used things like the crop circles. There
Mhm.
are crop circles that have been decoded with
Mhm.
messages. All right. Um, and then there have been signals received from space, from extraterrestrials trying to reach us. I talk about extraterrestrials walking among us, living among us. As
Mhm.
strange as that may sound, we really do have what's happening that looks like a Star Trek kind of thing where, in that show, they would go down to Earth and kind of check it out for scientific reasons, check out the people, what they're doing. Here, it is believed that we have the same kind of thing going on today, but they are hidden or they can blend.
Mhm.
There was a gentleman
Progress.
by the name of Charles Hall who wrote some books, who worked for the government, who talked about seeing a group called Tall Whites, working
Mhm.
with them secretively and being right here on earth. So I talk about that in the book. I give extraordinary experiences of astronauts, cosmonauts, and others in space that have come across UFOs and extraterrestrials out there. And I talk about the battle for earth in this book, whether or not there is a battle for us, over us, because if there are advanced beings in the universe that are hundreds,
Mhm.
thousands, and millions of years ahead of us.
Mhm.
So, Earth may be someone's property, or at least their quadrant in the galaxy to be overseen. And there
Mhm.
are evidences on Earth and Mars and the moon that there was some sort of galactic war. And then lastly, I talk about galactic hierarchies. You talked about the Council of Eight, the Council of Nine,
Nine. Right.
which may be one and the same. I understood. I heard that one of the council members have kind of left to go elsewhere for a while.
Right.
But,
Right.
yeah, so the Galactic Federation councils and
Mhm.
others that are out there that are
Mhm.
running the show out there.
Mhm.
I write about the cosmic freeways. I believe that extraterrestrials are using wormholes,
Mhm.
stargates, portals to traverse the universe, all of those thousands and thousands and thousands of miles that can take years to cross.
Mhm.
I believe that when you're talking about extraterrestrials that are advanced by millions of years, they've already established themselves. They know how to use that kind of technology, which we don't understand yet. But NASA is talking about one day,
Mhm.
perhaps we can get there. So it looks like someone has beat us to that. So I talk about all of those things in this new book. I believe we're not alone, and they're out there and they're working, and we're just on this planet, just kind of waiting to learn more, mature, and become a part of that community.
Well said. Well said. Well, with that, we come to the end of our show. It was great seeing you again. Please
Thank
hold
you. Nice
on.
to meet you.
Thank you to our audience, and all her contact information and links to the book and everything will be in the description. And as always, many blessings. And we love you. Bye.